Imagine waking up in a place so cold, your eyelashes freeze before you even step outside. In some countries, temperatures drop so low that cars must stay running all night. Hot water turns into snow instantly, and a few minutes outside without protection could kill you. From the frozen villages of Siberia to the icy lands near the Arctic Circle, these are the coldest countries on Earth, places where humans somehow learn to survive against nature's most brutal winters. Today, we'll explore where these countries are located, why they are so cold, how low the temperatures can get, and the unbelievable ways people adapted to live there. Let's begin. Russia, northern Eurasia, stretching across Europe and Asia. Why it's cold? Huge parts of Siberia are far from oceans, so freezing Arctic air stays trapped. Much of Russia lies at high latitudes, closer to the Arctic than many populated countries. Higher latitudes receive less direct sunlight, especially in winter. During winter, the sun sits lower in the sky, and some northern areas have extremely short daylight hours. Less solar energy means colder temperatures. How cold it gets? Around -71 degrees Celsius in Oymyakon. Coldest months, December to February. How people survive. Homes built with extreme insulation. Thick fur clothing. Cars often left running all day. Underground heating pipes prevent freezing. Canada, North America below the Arctic Circle. Why it's cold? Arctic winds sweep down from the north. A large part of Canada stretches far north toward the Arctic, so many regions receive less direct sunlight, especially in winter. Arctic air can move south easily. Cold polar air frequently travels into the country. Large inland areas, much of Canada is far from oceans, so temperatures become more extreme. Interior regions can get very cold in winter and surprisingly hot in summer. How cold it gets? Up to -63 degrees Celsius in Yukon. Coldest months, January and February. Adaptation. Heated underground walkways in some cities. Snow tires are mandatory in many areas. Indigenous Arctic communities use traditional survival skills. Greenland. Where it is, between North America and Europe. Why it's cold? It's much farther north. Large areas are inside the Arctic region. Massive ice sheet. Around most of Greenland is covered by a huge permanent ice sheet. Ice reflects sunlight back into space instead of absorbing heat. Snow and ice maintain the cold. Once snow and ice dominate a region, they help keep it cold through a feedback effect. Cold surrounding waters. Ocean and Arctic conditions keep temperatures low around much of the island. How cold it gets? Around -66 degrees Celsius inland. Coldest season, long Arctic winter. Adaptation. Homes built on rocky elevated ground. Heavy dependence on fishing and hunting. Dog sledding still used in remote areas. Iceland. Where it is, North Atlantic Ocean near the Arctic. Why it's cold? Close to the Arctic Circle with icy winds. How cold it gets? About degrees C, -36 degrees F. Coldest month, December, March. Adaptation. Geothermal heating warms homes naturally. Buildings designed to handle storms and snow. Roads monitored constantly for ice. Norway. Where it is, Northern Europe, Scandinavia. Why it's cold? Arctic location and polar winds. The North Atlantic Ocean and warm ocean currents help keep the coast milder. Even places very far north can stay warmer than parts of inland Canada or Russia at the same latitude. Mountains also influence weather patterns. That's why some coastal Norwegian cities have winters that are chilly, but not as brutally cold as Siberia. How cold it gets? Around -51 degrees Celsius. Coldest period, January, February. Adaptation. Advanced heating systems. People use reflective daylight lamps during dark winters. Excellent snow-clearing infrastructure. Finland. Where it is, Northern Europe besides Sweden and Russia. Why it's cold. Arctic air masses dominate winter. Finland is colder than Norway overall because it sits farther inland. It gets less warming influence from the Atlantic Ocean. Cold Arctic air can move in more easily. Northern Finland can have very long winters and periods where the sun barely rises. How cold it gets. Around -51 degrees Celsius coldest season, December to March. Adaptation. Saunas are part of daily life. Triple glazed windows in homes. Winter clothing is designed for extreme snow. Sweden. Where it is, Scandinavia in Northern Europe. Why it's cold, Northern Arctic climate. Sweden sits between Norway and Finland in climate. Western Sweden gets some ocean influence. Eastern and northern areas become much colder. Northern Sweden experiences Arctic conditions, while southern Sweden is much milder. How cold it gets. About -52 degrees Celsius. Coldest months, January, February. Adaptation. Efficient district heating systems. Snowproof transportation. Schools rarely close due to snow. Mongolia. Where it is, between China and Russia. Why it's cold, high elevation and landlocked geography. Mongolia is one of the coldest countries in the world because it is very far from oceans. There's little ocean influence to soften temperatures. High elevation, much of the country sits on a high plateau. Higher altitude usually means cooler air. Open landscape or cold air can move across the huge grasslands with few barriers. Continental climate, land heats and cools quickly, creating very cold winters and warm summers. Its capital, Ulaanbaatar, is often considered one of the coldest capital cities on Earth. How cold it gets. Around -45 degrees Celsius. Coldest time, December, February. Adaptation. Nomads use thick felt tents called jurs. Livestock bred for freezing climates. Coal heating common in winter. In Kazakhstan. Where it is, Central Asia. Why it's cold. Vast open steppes allow Arctic air to spread easily. Kazakhstan is cold mainly because huge inland location, though it is deep inside Eurasia and far from oceans. Large flat plains, Arctic air masses, can move south with fewer obstacles. Continental climate, winters can become severe, while summers can get very hot. So Kazakhstan can swing from freezing winters to hot summers. How cold it gets. Around -52 degrees Celsius. Coldest season, midwinter. Adaptation. Heavy insulated apartments. Central heating systems. Winter-ready transportation. It's United States. Where it is, North America. Why it's cold. Alaska sits deep in the Arctic region. The United States is different because it covers many climate zones. Northern states are closer to colder regions. Arctic air from Canada can sometimes push far south. The Rocky Mountains influence weather patterns. Interior regions can have stronger temperature extremes than coastal areas. That's why Miami can feel warm in winter, while Chicago may get heavy snow and sub-zero temperatures. And Alaska can be intensely cold. How cold it gets. Around -62 degrees Celsius in Alaska. Coldest period, January. Adaptation. Heated pipelines in Alaska. Special Arctic clothing. Snowmobiles used in remote regions. Denmark. Where it is, Northern Europe. Why it's cold. Greenland is part of the Danish kingdom. Denmark is relatively mild compared with other northern countries because it is surrounded by water. The North Atlantic's warmer ocean influence moderates temperatures. Winters are often cool and windy rather than deeply freezing. That's why Denmark can sit at a northern latitude, but avoid the extreme cold of Siberia. How cold it gets. Arctic temperatures below -50 degrees Celsius. Adaptation. Arctic survival infrastructure. Specialized fishing communities. Estonia. Where it is, Baltic region in northern Europe. Why it's cold. Baltic Sea winds and northern latitude. Estonia is colder than Denmark because it lies farther east and gets more continental influence. Cold air from Eastern Europe and Russia can reach it. Winter snow is more common and temperatures can drop further. How cold it gets. Around -43 degrees Celsius. Coldest months, January, February. Adaptation. Smart heating systems. Thick forest housing insulation. Latvia. Where it is, northeastern Europe. Why it's cold. Long winters in Arctic air. Latvia is fairly similar to Estonia. It also borders the Baltic Sea, which prevents more extreme temperatures. Inland areas are usually colder than coastal areas. Winters can be snowy, but they are generally less harsh than northern Finland or Siberia. How cold it gets. About -43 degrees Celsius. Adaptation. Wood-burning heating. Winterized public transport. Lithuania. Where it is, Baltic region of Europe. Why it's cold. Continental winter climate. Lithuania is cold, for reasons similar to Latvia and Estonia. It is in northern Europe, so winters get less direct sunlight. It has some Baltic Sea influence, which softens temperatures near the coast. It also receives continental air from the east, bringing colder winter conditions. Inland areas can become much colder than coastal regions. Compared with its Baltic neighbors, Lithuania is often slightly milder than Estonia overall because it sits farther south. How cold it gets. Around -42 degrees Celsius. Coldest period, January. Adaptation. Thick insulated buildings. Efficient heating networks. Antarctica. Not officially a country, but the coldest inhabited region by scientists. Where it is, South Pole region. Why it's cold. Receives very little solar heat and is covered by ice. Extremely far south, it surrounds the South Pole. Long periods with little or no sunlight in winter. Massive ice coverage. Nearly the entire continent is covered by ice, reflecting sunlight back into space. Very high elevation. Antarctica is actually the highest continent on average, and higher elevation means colder air. Ocean currents isolated. Cold waters and winds circulate around Antarctica, helping trap the cold. Temperatures in Antarctica can fall below -80 degrees Celsius, and some recorded temperatures have gone even lower. How cold it gets. -89 degrees Celsius, the coldest ever recorded on Earth. Coldest season, Antarctic winter, May-August. Who lives there? Only scientists and researchers temporarily. Adaptation. Special heated research stations. Multi-layer survival suits. Strict outdoor time limits. The human body was never designed for temperatures this extreme, yet millions of people still call these frozen lands home. From underground heating systems to Arctic survival skills passed down for generations, life in the coldest countries on Earth proves just how adaptable humans can be. So, which of these countries shocked you the most? And could you survive even 1 week in temperatures below -50 degrees? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more fascinating videos from around the world. Thanks for watching and stay warm.